Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me first make sure the record is clear on my behalf, and I don't think that it is clear on behalf of the budget that's proposed by the 45th President of the United States. What I can speak for is the 720,000 people of the 5th Congressional District of New York. And I want to say to all of the women and men of the State Department, thank you. Thank you for your service, your dedication to this great country. Just as I say thank you to every person that's in the United States military for what you do for our country, those women and men of the State Department are the very best. They make sacrifices on a daily basis on behalf of the United States of America. And this budget does not give them the kind of respect and the kind of credit that they deserve because they represent our country well. And so I can speak on behalf of the 720,000 people that I represent in the 5th Congressional District, and I want all of them to know how much we appreciate their service to this great country. We would not be who we are today without your leadership and without your sacrifices. And so I think that this budget is devastating to the leadership of our country and to the service that you've rendered to it. And I wanted to make sure that that first was on the record. I am just shocked at this budget, to be quite frank with you. And I think that it's a bipartisan, and it should be a bipartisan effort because it always has been where we've been bringing this together. This proposed budget envisions a different role for America in the world. That's what it really does, where one does not lead based upon principles or ideas, but rather an America that's driven by what is our bottom line. And so what does that mean to those of us and to the world who looks for the United States for leadership? The liberal, democratic world order is one that we built to protect our country and everyone else's. It's to protect democratic interests, and that's what the State Department does. When you look at the protests, the recent protests in Belarus and Russia, places where it's awfully, and those protesters are awfully brave to taking real risk of brutal suppression, I worry about what the new generation of freedom fighters will have in that regards. In America First World, these brave freedom fighters are separate from our interests, whereas I see a free world as one where America does, in fact, benefit. In fact, humankind benefits. So let me get off I got a couple of questions that I do want to get to. And I guess I'll go to Mr. Burns because I know that you stated in the State Department's main resource is its personnel. And you've talked about that over and over again. How might we help attract and retain a committed and dedicated workforce now after this hiring freeze and what's going into the future? Because I'm concerned about also the future. What kind of message does it send to our men and women of the State Department?
Congressman Meeks, as I said in my testimony, I've never seen morale so low. I'm not blaming Secretary Tillerson, by the way. I think he's doing his best. He just doesn't have any lieutenants around him. And so there needs to be a message from the White House that in addition to respecting, as you say, the military, as all of us do, our diplomats are doing vital work for America. And in my written testimony, I won't go into it, I outline some of what diplomats do every day: commercial work, consular work, political work. We're embedded, our political officers, with our troops in Afghanistan and Iraq. And so that's service to the country. I teach now at a school that produces students who want to go into the foreign service and the military. And a lot of our students are wondering, will our work be valued? And that concerns me greatly.
And by the way, and I think Mr. Sherman touched on some of this, because there are Americans that believe that the cuts would not directly impact their lives. But what if I told you the Department of State's role in advancing, and I think Mr. Cranston indicated, U.S. trade policy objectives by opening new exports and job opportunities for American businesses and workers through trade initiatives, supported over 315,000 U.S. jobs in 2015 in just my home state of New York? And what if I told you that more than 1,700 exchange visitors, as indicated, from overseas visited New York, and nearly 1,000 New York residents traveled overseas as part of the department's Education and Cultural Exchange funded programs in 2015 and 2016. What will happen to American jobs in cultural and education exchange as a result of these drastic cuts? We will be hurt. I see I'm out of time. I just want to make sure I put in for the record that, because you could talk about various programs. I wanted to talk about Columbia. We don't have enough time and how important it is to continue that. But because of a bipartisan way, former Republican Senate Majority Leader Bob Dole recently made a statement in the Washington Post, which I'd ask to be submitted for the record. It says, eliminating the McGovern-Dole program would have a disastrous effect on the planet's most vulnerable children. Without a reliable source of nutrition, these children face a lifetime of stunted physical and mental development and unrealized opportunity. This global school meals program remains one of the proudest achievements of my lifetime. It embodies the very best of America's values. Saving this program means saving lives. It is simple as that, and I ask that this, for unanimous consent, that the quote from the Washington Post article be submitted into the hearing record.
Without objection. We go now to Mr. Dana Rohrabacher of California.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, let me note that the bravery of our military is not and should not be used to justify specific military actions or justify actually an overall budget that is based on those specific military